And the two learning outcomes are language changes, how students analyze language changes, and the second one is how context and culture shape language and meaning. And so this author, her name is Amy Tan. She was born in 1952 in Oakland, California. She was born to Chinese immigrant parents, and she is most famous for as an American writer. She wrote The Joy Luck Club and Mother Tongue, which we read earlier this year. And her work mainly focuses on mother-daughter relationships. And so the reason that I chose Mother Tongue was because of how much I was able to relate to it, because her family are immigrants from China, while my family are immigrants from Mexico. And so in the Green Shade area, that's where my parents are from. They're from Zacatecas. And that's the relation that me and Amy Tan have. When I was reading it, I felt like I was reading my own situation because of how much I was able to relate to it. For example, when she was speaking to her mother in broken, informal English, her mother would understand what she was trying to say, but she felt really weird talking to her like that. And that's how I feel if I would talk formally to my parents, because my dad only speaks Spanish, while my mother only talks fluent English and Spanish. And my dad, he tries to talk English, but it's really hard for him to understand or to even speak it. So that's why I wanted to do a video asking questions in English. And he answered back in English, and he has very broken English, and he has like a really thick accent, so it's kind of hard for someone else to understand, but for me it's really easy to understand because I'm used to it. So
¿cómo te sentiste aprendiendo cultura americana? How did you feel about learning, conforming to the American culture? Good?
Yeah.
¿Y qué más? ¿No más? Ok. ¿Cuáles dificultades aprendiste cuando estabas aprendiendo el inglés?
Oh, muchas.
What difficulties did you face while learning English?
Too many.
Too many?
Too
Like
many
what?
difficult.
Like what?
Like, talk to me English.
Talk to English?
Yeah.
Is there, at your work, do you speak English or Spanish?
Half and half.
Half and half? And your boss?
English.
English? Does he understand you?
Yeah?
Yeah?
Sometimes not.
Sometimes? Okay. ¿Cómo te sientes cuando alguien no te entiende lo que estás hablando en inglés? How did you feel?
Oh, bad.
Bad? Why?
Because I don't understand sometimes English, so
Okay.
same thing.
¿Te sientes a gusto nomás hablando español aquí en la casa? Do you feel comfortable when talking Spanish here?
Yeah? You okay?
Yeah? You okay?
Yeah, it's better in English, but that's okay.
Do you struggle with understanding or speaking English? ¿Tienes dificultades hablando o aprendiendo español? I mean, inglés?
Sí.
A lot? Yeah?
No, not a lot.
Oh, okay. ¿Y en este día sientes que sí sabes el inglés? ¿Mucho o no? Do you feel
50.
like 50 and 50?
Yeah, 50-50.
Why? ¿No se te vienen las palabras en mente?
No, es muy difícil el inglés.
Okay. Yeah.
okay, so I just want to know, out of curiosity, like how many of you could understand what my dad was trying to say in English? All of you? Okay. Because whenever he speaks like full-on sentences or something, some people can't understand what he's trying to say because of his thick accent, but here he only answered like 1 or 2 word answers. So it was probably easy for you guys to understand. And something that caught my attention when I was asking him a question, I was asking very formal questions. For example, I asked him if he struggled learning it or learning it today or speaking it, and he couldn't understand what I was trying to say, so he had to wait for me to translate in Spanish, and that's when we understood. And that's another point that Amy Tan tried to get across in Mother Tongue. She wanted to prove people that coming from an immigrant family, you could also prove to be intelligent. So because she mentioned a bunch of stereotypes in mother tongue. For example, she mentioned that Asian stereotypes would lean more towards math or science careers, while she wanted to prove to people that going into English career, she would be successful, and she did. And I think that's a struggle that my dad has to go through too. He wants to prove people that he's intelligent, even though he's not fluent in English. And another thing, Amy Tan has to translate for her mother. While I don't translate for my father, my mother does it for him. So in Amy Tan, mother tongue, her mother would have her translate because she didn't want people to take advantage of her or felt like she was dumb or anything like that. And that's the struggle that my dad has sometimes too. He wants to prove to people that he can do it, he can conform to the English language here. And the reason I chose the word like conform to English language, because when he came over here, that's the language he's supposed to learn here. That's, even though it's not the official language here in the United States, it is the official language here in California. And that's what he's supposed to talk at work or with any of the other his colleagues or around my house too. I hardly ever talk English around him. It's always Spanish at my house. And that's another thing. And so, much like Amy Tan in mother tongue, she was able to understand what her mother was trying to say perfectly clearly, and that's how I felt when I'm trying to talk to my dad in English too. I felt like I can understand him perfectly or clearly. And Amy Tan also mentioned that she doesn't want to lose her identity in mother tongue. She wants to hold on to her Chinese and American culture as much as she can. And that's the thing that I struggle with too, because right now at my age, I go to school here, and then like with my friends, I just talk pure English, and I hardly ever talk Spanish. The only times I really talk Spanish is at home or when I go to work, which I work at a panaderia and work at a Mexican bakery, and I talk full-on Spanish there. There's never a time when someone comes in and only speaks English, so a lot of my coworkers and people there have to rely on me to translate. And I also volunteer at a hospital, which a lot of people have to volunteer on me to have to rely on me to translate from English to Spanish or from Spanish to English. So throughout the week, I get like both sides of the spectrum. And Amy Tan had to do that too, from translating or from talking formal English with her friends. And another thing that stood out to me was how she code switches within her mom or her friends, because after I read that, I was more aware of my code switching at home and at school. Like for example, if I'm talking to my friends, I use a lot of slang, and if I'm talking to a teacher, I talk really formal, and if I'm talking to you guys right now, I'm talking really formal. And if I talk at home with my parents, I notice that I use a lot of broken English too, and I use a lot of Spanglish. And for Amy Tan, when she would talk to her friends, she would talk very formally with her friends, and while she was talking to her mom, it would be in between Chinese and English, and that's the same situation at home with me. And I think it's kind of neat that in the United States they're accommodating to all the diverse language spoken here. Like for example, 2 weeks ago, I went to Universal Studios, and on the studio tours, they had each bus was like they had different buses for each language that they had there. They had like Mandarin, Spanish, English, and I think that's really neat how they're accommodating to all the diverse languages spoken here, like translators and signs that say different languages. Like I was driving, and I saw on the car dealers that they had a sign that says "Se habla español," and they had that. I thought it was really neat because maybe someone who speaks only Spanish would be kind of hesitant to go in there, maybe because they don't speak English, so they would need someone. And so overall, I just, the point I was trying to get across, and Amy Tan was trying to get across too, was she wanted to prove that her minority status didn't affect how intelligent she was, or the different Englishes she spoke around her life. And that's the thing I wanted to add too, because the Englishes that myself and that Amy Tan spoke kind of shaped the way we saw things, and it definitely shapes what I see in everyday life. And so for Amy Tan, talking to her mother in broken English and in Chinese was her mother tongue, and then talking to my father was my own father